So now that we're able to identify our hazardous waste and we know what we have to do with our hazardous waste once we've collected it on site, let's talk about how long you can store your hazardous waste before you need to ship it off for proper disposal. The allowable storage periods can vary based on how much and what types of waste you generate. And we'll go more in depth about this topic in the next few slides. The allowable storage period for your facility's hazardous waste depends on your facility's generator status. There are three types of generators of hazardous waste: very small quantity generators, or conditionally exempt small quantity generators. They're the same thing with different names. Small quantity generators, and large quantity generators. You can see from the table the thresholds for each type of generator is based on the amount of waste that you generate per month. Less than 100 kilograms per month, or about 27 gallons per month, you're considered a conditionally exempt small quantity generator. If you generate between 100 kilograms to 1,000 kilograms per month, or about 270 gallons per month, you're considered a small quantity generator. And if you generate more than 1,000 kilograms per month, remember that's 270 gallons more or less, then you are considered a large quantity generator. Additionally, your generator status depends partially on the type of waste you produce. The total amount of hazardous waste, except those specifically excluded by law or regulation, like drained used oil filters, will count towards your California status, while only your RECRA waste is counted towards your federal status. So, it is possible for your facility to be considered a large quantity generator in California, but to the federal government only be a small quantity generator. Also, note that your generator status can change from month to month if the amount of waste that you generate in a single month changes. Conditionally exempt small quantity generators generate no more than 100 kilograms per month. This works out to 220 pounds per month, or approximately 27 gallons of a liquid waste per month. If you're a conditionally exempt small quantity generator, you may store your waste indefinitely until you reach the 100 kilogram or 27 gallons or 220-pound point. After you've accumulated 100 kilograms of waste, you may continue to store your waste for an additional 180 days until you ship it off for disposal. Even though, as a conditionally exempt small quantity generator, you are allowed to store your waste indefinitely if you are below the 100 kilogram point, it is recommended that you dispose of your waste regularly. Also, note that the 100 kilogram threshold applies to all waste on site. It's not 100 kilograms per waste stream. A small quantity generator is a generator that generates less than 1,000 kilograms, or 270 gallons, of waste in a month, and also accumulates no more than 6,000 kilograms, or 1,620 gallons, of all wastes on site. Also, note that any acutely hazardous or extremely hazardous waste does not apply for this count. If you generate more than 1 kilogram, which is about 2.2 pounds, of an acutely or extremely hazardous waste in a month, then you would be considered a large quantity generator. Small quantity generators may store the waste for up to 180 days on site, which works out to approximately 6 months. In general, the length of time that you may store your hazardous waste on site is determined by your generator status. However, there is a provision called point of generation accumulation, or satellite accumulation, that allows for some relaxation of these requirements as long as you meet certain conditions. The conditions of point of generation accumulation are: 1. You must accumulate hazardous waste in containers of 55 gallons or less, and they must not be in tanks. 2. Must be stored at or near where the waste is generated and must be under the control of the operator. And 3, you can accumulate up to 55 gallons per hazardous waste stream. This means that you can generate up to 55 gallons of multiple waste streams if necessary. There is one exception for laboratories. You may keep your waste as close as practical to the point of generation and under the control of a trained designated person. This can allow for a little bit more flexibility for laboratories. If a waste accumulation area meets all of the requirements to be considered point of generation or satellite accumulation, you are allowed to accumulate that waste on site for a maximum of 1 year before shipping it off site. If the container becomes full before that 1 year after initial accumulation, then you must mark the container with that full date, along with the first drop date that should already be on the container. So now you will have two dates on your label. There's the first drop date, the date that there was the first drop of hazardous waste in that container, and then the second date is the date that it was filled to the top. After that, you are allowed up to 180 days from the date filled date or 1 year from the first drop date to dispose of that waste. And it should be whichever one comes first. So, we've talked a lot about point of generation, but sometimes it's just easier to have a visual example of what this means. In this example, we have a facility with a main shop area with an office area attached. All of the work is done in the work bay inside of that shop area. And there's a parts washer located here as well. The work bay generates used oil and waste coolant, and the parts washer generates generates waste parts washer fluid. All of the waste is collected in the shop bay near the point of generation for each type of waste. Since each different waste stream is collected in one 55-gallon drum each, this facility appears to meet the requirements for point of generation, that the waste is collected at or near the point of generation and is under the control of the operator. Therefore, they may use the point of generation accumulation time of 1 year or 180 days from the full date, whichever comes first. Now, let's look at another example. In this scenario, the work bay and the parts washer machine are located inside of the shop area, but the waste is stored in an outside storage area. It would be harder to argue in this case that the waste containers are located at or near the point of generation. Additionally, it becomes hard to argue that the waste is under the control of the operator at all times, since it's located in the outside storage area and the workers are for the most part located inside the shop area. In this case, it would be harder to argue that this facility meets the requirements for point of generation accumulation. So the normal accumulation times for this facility would apply. Now that we've talked a little bit about the allowable storage periods for your hazardous waste and point of generation accumulation requirements, I want to open up the floor for any more questions.